Jim, why don't you call the meeting?
Okay,
to order?
I'll call the meeting to order.
And why don't you ask for a selection of temporary chairperson?
And would somebody like to nominate a temporary chairperson?
I nominate Jim.
Second,
Okay, and was that Ken? Was that you making the nomination?
Yes, it was.
And who seconded?
Dale Rhodes.
Rhodes. Okay. Are there any other Are you all okay with that? So Jim, why don't you ask for the call to question on that? Just all in favor of you as the chairperson?
All in favor is me as the chairperson, say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Okay,
motion
and Jim, I'll
passed.
quickly take the roll here and note who's here for the record. Peter Connor, Nate Day, Ted Dockery, Ken Marquardt, Dale Rhodes, Jim Schutz. And I know that Ella was going to be joining as well. Or at least she had told me that earlier today, but I don't see her right now. So you have 1, 2, 3, 6 present. So next would be the approval of the minutes.
Okay, would anybody like to recommend approval of the minutes of March 23rd? Are there any questions about the minutes?
I move to approve.
Any seconds?
Second,
All
Ken,
those
was
in
that your
favor?
motion again? I'm sorry, Jim.
Yep. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Opposed? The minutes for March 2023 have been approved.
Okay.
And Mark, would you like to take the first item there, I assume?
Sure. The 5-year street improvement plan is the first item. And so this is something that you've seen before. This is an annual iteration of projects that the Public Works Committee reviews. It's prepared by our engineering staff. Public Works Committee endorses that, sometimes shuffles some projects around. They take into consideration the scale and scope of the streets that are in need of repair. Sometimes it's a full reconstruction, which of course is much more expensive versus a simple resurfacing. And so they try to balance out the demands of the city, of the street, of the transportation network that's street infrastructure, and group them together into manageable chunks that they can take on every year and submit as part of the budget process. So based on that discussion that they had in March, they have recommended the streets in green for improvement in the year 2024. And I'll try and zoom in a little bit here. Ella has joined the meeting, by the way. And welcome, Ella. So these are the Parmenter Street Northwest, which is in the process of being designed and discussed with property owners. And that would be a full reconstruction with pedestrian and bicycle accommodations. They're proposing a path on the east side of Parmenter and a sidewalk on the west side. Bike lanes are at this point part of the plan, and is 1 travel lane in each direction. The idea is to have it be a wide enough median so that if necessary, if there's 4 lanes necessary, it's my understanding they would try and have enough width there in the right of way to widen the road in the future if it's necessary. To the south at Lee Street and Clark Street, that's an area that is listed for next year. There's some sidewalk on the north side of Lee Street. There's a gap on part of Clark Street on the east side and all the way to the cul-de-sac. And then working our way south, Elmwood Avenue, a street that has sidewalks. You've weighed in on the design previously for that, so that shouldn't be anything new there. Kenyon, which is in Fox Ridge, and 3 cul-de-sacs that connect to it, of which Red Oak Court does not have sidewalk. Westfield, south of that, connecting Parmenter with Madison, and the 2 cul-de-sacs that 2 of the cul-de-sacs that come off of Westfield, West and East Hampstead Court, and I believe those all have all have sidewalks. And then I missed one to the east here, an area, Lake Street, connecting Allen Boulevard with the lake, and the boat launch area, and then Dewey Court, which is a short cul-de-sac next to it, which has sidewalk. Lake Street does not currently, and Dewey Court has a very small gap that doesn't have a sidewalk, which is essentially inconsequential. But it's the cul-de-sac. It's at the end of the cul-de-sac where there's no adjoining property owner, basically. The point is it has a sidewalk on connecting all the properties to the street. So those are the projects they list for next year. The Plan Commission also reviewed this at their meeting on Tuesday, and they made a motion to recommend to the Finance Committee and Common Council the approval of the 5-year street improvement plan as recommended by the Public Works Committee, with street design consistent with the complete streets policy, the resolution that was adopted by the city last year. So they added that as part of their motion. I guess all I would add, and then turn it over to you, Jim, and the committee for discussion, is that I have been reminded by my Public Works colleagues that their focus with the 5-year street improvement plan is the surface of the street. It's not the sidewalks per se. The sidewalks are, the city tends to do sidewalk projects in conjunction with the annual sidewalk improvement program, where there's 8 quadrants. Well, they aren't quadrants then. There's 8 areas that the city's divided into 8 regions, and each year, every 8 years, they cycle through the city completely, focusing on specific areas of the city, to 1/8 of the city essentially, to focus on sidewalk improvements, where sidewalks have been heaved up by tree roots, for example, or damaged in some other way. So sidewalks are typically implemented as part of that program. However, with our complete streets policy now, we are in the planning department trying to get a more holistic view of our street improvement program. We have obviously in the past, recent past, as streets are reconstructed, we've asked the Ped Bike Transit Committee to weigh in on pedestrian and bicycle amenities as part of the street. So that's why I just wanted to pass that on, that those funding decisions have sometimes been, have been decoupled in the past, but we have been working towards, under Dan Ramsey's leadership as chairperson, to get the Ped Bike Transit Committee to weigh in on these things at the time of design of the street reconstruction projects, resurfacing projects. So with that as background, I will turn it over to the committee. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Is the dark blue, what year is that?
So 2025 is dark blue. Yellow, which is probably hard to see, is 2026. Teal, the light blue, is 2027, and red is 2028. So the dark blue is Franklin Avenue. I think this is intended to show the municipal parking lots here along the railroad tracks between Hubbard and Terrace. I should have checked on that before this meeting, and I forgot to do that. Then there's an area, Mound Drive, which is a cul-de-sac off of, and it's old rural cross section largely, off of Gateway here in the southeast. And then the north side is Spring Hill Drive, which connects Graber Road with High Road. It's a pretty important connection across the north side of the city. And an adjoining street is part of the blue area there. And then on the east side is Matthews Road by Arbor Lakes Apartments, Matthews Road and Diane Drive. That's for 2025.
Mark, in 2025, when they repave the library parking lot, can we reevaluate the handicap parking?
Sure, that's good feedback.
Because, you know, if you go across the tracks on the other side, that's a city lot. And it's kind of crazy because they got at least 4 or 5 stalls there for handicap parking. And on the other side of the tracks by the library, there's only 2. And, you know, the purpose of handicap parking is to try to get people close to where they're trying to get instead of walking a little farther, you know, than what they would normally have to do. So I'd like to, at that time, at least take a look at this and make some recommendations when they repave it and repaint it.
I'm going to zoom in on that if you'd like. And also, I should point out, we have another person who has joined us, and I didn't see him at the beginning, Ben Balwick, who I believe is a new committee member. Am I right about that, Ben? Or not?
I'm not trying to join the committee at this time, but I was interested in listening in today, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, I
Thank you.
didn't know if you were or not. I know there's the appointment process. I haven't kept up with it actively. I know that actually, yeah, the appointments aren't going to happen until this coming meeting. So never mind, I jumped the gun. I just wanted to make sure you were recognized as being present at the meeting as well. So,
Thank you.
yep, sorry about that. Didn't mean to put you on the spot. And now my browser crashed, of course, or my, here, I'll just go to this. All right, so Ken, you were talking about which the library lot and then the lot across the way, the to the south has
Yeah,
4 ADA spaces.
yeah. And then on the library, there's only 2. And it seems kind of funny that people have to walk all the way across the tracks when they're handicapped to get closer to the library. I think they should be putting more handicap parking in the library parking lot, maybe closer to the restaurant. That's my, you know, looking at it, but it's just, it caught me when I walked down through there that, you know, the handicap parking on the other side is very seldom used, even though there's one, I guess, designated for recharging vehicles. So.
Yeah.
But I would like, at least brought that up, so.
Well, and the photo bears that out. Just in one snapshot in time, the 4 spaces are open, whereas the 2 up here are occupied.
Yeah,
And I am doing, I haven't been able to devote too much time to it yet, but it is on the list from the last meeting to look at opportunities with signage and pavement marking for handicap parking on the street in this area as well. But obviously we want to look at this holistically between the street and off-street parking. So that's good feedback.
thank you.
Mark, is that something that would need to wait until 2025?
I'm happy to capture any feedback you have regarding the 5-year plan now, regardless of the year, because these things can shift around in priority based on, you know, unforeseen changes, and whether it's budget or pavement fall, you know, disrepair or you know, whatever the reasons are. It's good to, that's why we have a 5-year planning document, is to try and have some foresight to what the needs are. And sometimes something that's 3 years out might get pushed to 5 years, and something else might move up on the list. But the ones for next year are pretty set. I mean, assuming they get funded by the council as part of the budget process this summer and fall.
So on that note, Mark, do we have a cross section for Parmenter?
We do, and I can try and locate it. It's you know, the plan is what's before you, but I can
Right.
tell you the in fact, I did the committee. I think the committee weighed in on Parmenter a couple of years ago, but maybe I am misremembering that. What it is a bike. Well, here I'll since we're talking about priorities, and that's generally on the agenda. So
Yeah.
I can find it in the Public Works packet, I would think.
Well, that's the thing. I'm looking at the packet from 2 days ago, and I see the plan again, but I don't actually see the cross section.
No, that wasn't before the Plan Commission, but it was before the Public Works Committee on Monday.
Oh, I'm in the, okay.
Yeah,
wrong place. Thank you.
So. Let's think here. I would also add that for Century Avenue, while I'm looking that up to get your answer, Century Avenue in yellow, we are planning to coordinate that work with the county since it's a county highway. We also are planning in 2025, I believe it is, to redesign or to start designing, redesigning the intersection of Allen and Century. So I would add that. Well, I'm not able, for some reason, the meeting software is not generating Monday's Public Works meeting, but I can tell you just the general concept is that what I said earlier is that there was bike and ped facilities as part of this, and it is
Yeah.
not something specific to the agenda currently today, other than to let you know it's a project for next year.
Okay, so when will we weigh in on that cross section?
That opportunity has presented itself through in the past through this through the Public Works Committee and the public meeting that was held on Monday.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I don't recall off the top of my head now because it wasn't specifically listed as a separate discussion topic. So and it's not something we can really get into in detail. In the context of the plan, it's fine, but it's, you know, suffice it to say that it's been designed with pedestrian and bicycle facilities. So, and I still don't have the on-base isn't working for me for some reason. So I'm sorry, I can't answer. I mean, I know that's the answer is that it has pedestrian and
right. I actually managed to load it, so I'm looking at it now.
Okay.
Um,
Well, what's before you is just, you know, your consent. Do you see anything here as a
with the 5-year plan.
extra in the future where you have concerns and want to weigh in on this for ped bike input specifically? And if not, then you could just, you know, the recommendation would be just to adopt what the Plan Commission adopted as a motion.
Have we passed forward our concerns concerning the signal crosswalks on Century Avenue? That was in a previous meeting. Was that sent to the Public Works and the Plan Commission?
You mean the leading pedestrian interval issue?
Yeah, that and then the lighted crosswalks where you push a button and cross. Didn't we talk about putting one near the Pheasant Branch Creek?
Oh, you mean the RFB
Yeah.
discussions? Yeah, so that's not, the Century Avenue design isn't before us, but I will note that the priority of you know, the type of things that you'd like to be incorporated as part of this planning document as feedback. But I think the real issue before us is the concept of the timing and phasing of these projects and how they, you know, opportunities that present themselves for the, you know, the needs that are met, that need to be met for pedestrian bicycle facilities, providing feedback in that sense, but getting into the details of how something's designed is, you know, like it would not really be something that we should get into at this point. I don't have the information for you and it's not listed on the agenda.
So then, Mark, this would be more a global picture of looking at the plan and saying there's nothing with the scheduling of this that we disagree with.
Yeah, that should be your focus. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody have any other questions? Would somebody like, do you want a motion on this, Mark?
Yeah, why don't you, if, so the plan commission motion was to recommend approval to the finance committee and council as recommended by public works committee with the street design consistent with the complete streets policy. They just added that as a, the plan commission recommended that be part of the motion. So, and I agree with that 100% and would recommend you adopt the same motion. So,
Okay, does anybody want to approve that motion as read by Mark? I'm not gonna try to repeat the entire motion.
I can put it on the screen if you need me to.
Yeah, I'll move that we approve the 5-year street plan consistent with et cetera.
And recommend that to the finance committee and council. Okay.
Yes.
Any second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Rose, okay.
All those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the motion is adopted.
Thank you. Go ahead. The next
Next
item
item?
is, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark, with the next item.
Bus stop improvements and amenities is the next agenda item. So we have been trying very hard for the last couple of months to figure out what our budget's going to be for making bus stop improvements. Just quick way of background for context. We have applied for funding to the state and we have every reason to believe it's going to be approved. But we checked with the state officials earlier this week, and they told us that by the end of May, they will know what our distribution will be, how much funding we will receive through the Tier B application, it's called. The reason I bring that up is because we are anticipating that the funding we receive will leave some funds left over to make some bus stop improvements for this year, which has been our game plan for since Metro unveiled the new routes. So we are in the process. I'm working with Daphne, my coworker Daphne Shu. We are developing a plan and hoping to add on to the work that our sidewalk program that I mentioned earlier, doing a change order with that, with council approval, to pour concrete boarding pads in a few places where none currently exist along the future bus route, which goes into effect a month from today. The spreadsheet we're working on, I had hoped to finish for this meeting, and I have not. It looks like this, but it's going to be, I don't know if you can see that, but it's basically we're identifying where it's desirable to have a shelter. We are going to be proposing bike racks and trash receptacles in key locations. We have to obviously finish doing an inventory of existing terrace widths and where most of them have boarding surfaces already. We may need to expand in some area, but because we don't know what our funding source is, we don't have a specific action item for you tonight. We had hoped to work towards that, but we can't do it at this point because we don't know all the details that we need to have. So I just wanted you to be aware that we are working on this, and anything that we aren't able to fund this year will then be a budget request for next year to make improvements at our bus stops. And Tad in particular, I think you'll be pleased to know that we are talking about bike racks at every bus stop as much as we can, based on prior feedback. So like simply a U-shape, and it's something that I want to also make sure we work on with Metro Transit and coordinate if there's any consistent, I won't call it branding, but if there's a consistent approach so that people across the system have sort of a reasonable set of common expectations for amenities they have at bus stops. We may be in a position to offer more amenities here, if depending again on the amount of funding that we get, but our focus is right now to ensure that we have our transit service funded for this year and moving forward. And if we can make some ADA improvements at individual bus stops yet this year, we feel that's very important to get that concrete poured. Some of these other amenities will be, we'll run this all by you again and have you endorse and have the council endorse this in the future. That's all I had. There's not an action item at this point. But if you have any feedback on what I just said, I would welcome hearing it.
Anybody have any questions or suggestions? Okay, let's move to the next item.
I am working with and would appreciate volunteers to help with our bike week preparations. We have a few entities that are willing to help sponsor events again at the bike commuter station that we've had in the past at Old Middleton Road and Stonefield Road. That intersection has worked well, capturing bicyclists going in both directions. For those of you who are not, I think you probably all are familiar with that location, but I will see if I can pull it up quickly. Let's see here. All right. So this location here, Old Middleton Road, where it intersects with Stonefield. Precisely. Oh, that's unfortunate. There we go. So here's the intersection, and we've had a table established here over the years. Last year, it was not quite as well attended, partially due to weather, but more significantly because Old Middleton Road was under construction to the east, and so there weren't quite as many bicyclists as we had seen pre-COVID. Yeah, last year was the first time since COVID that we reestablished the station, so we were the double whammy of coming out of COVID with some changed patterns for commuting, coupled with the construction to the east. Kept it to a few dozen last year, weather being a variable as well. But it's in the past, we've had 50 to 75 people stop by here. And so there's a website, which is Bike Week Madison, that we will register our activities and make sure we're part of the region. And I just wanted you to be aware of it and invite your participation. Anyone who'd like to help staff the station, it would be wonderful to have that assistance. So that's what I had for you. And the sponsors are still trying to, there's still a couple I'm waiting to hear back from, but so I'm not ready to announce them at this point, but we've got some of the same people that have been helping us in the past.
Is there any group or organization that does anything for school-age children during this week?
Maybe Dale can answer that question if you know Dale.
Not that I'm aware of. I can look into it.
Well, what I will add to that, Dale, is Elmont School and Northside in particular, and probably Old Sauk too, over the years have done other events, especially in the spring, where they make like a bike rodeo. It just hasn't been timed for this week because this is the last week of school. Madison Bike Week is, poorly timed from the standpoint of the school year. So to answer your question, Jim, the schools have done their own bike events, but it's not coordinated with Madison Bike Week.
Right, and I see the point about it being last week of school would make it very difficult.
Right. But it's a good question. This is the website, madisonbikes.org. And some people are already registering their events. We have until, I think it's May 28th to register ours. Ian's Pizza on the Path, for example. So that's, we'll have something similar to this. This is at Capital City Path and Garver Feed Mill. So that's going to be a bike commuter station. Some really nice ways to highlight the week. Mayoral press conference and ride in Madison. That's something I also have thought about reaching out to our mayor to see if she wants to do anything like that. So if you have any ideas, I'm inviting you ideas right now, aside from just me telling you we're planning a table. If you have any other ideas and brainstorming, that's why this is on the agenda.
Oh, no comments. We could move to the next item,
Well,
or did you?
sorry, I was thinking up some things. I don't have anything concrete, but just scheduling some group rides around town would make a lot of sense. That would be good. Middleton is already essentially a 15-minute bike city. I think a lot of people think that the city is much larger physically than it actually is. And simply doing group rides around town would kind of make them aware that, oh, I can get to most places very quickly. Even though it is the last week of school, it might still be possible to do, for some elementary schools, a bike bus where you group all the kids together and all bike to school together. So just in case they still want to do that, that's a possibility. If I think of more, should I just email you, Mark?
Yeah, I would
Okay.
welcome individual emails, and if anybody's able to help with any of this, that would be great too. We don't really have a local bike advocacy group in Middleton. Some cities have that, and that'd be nice to have something like that evolve eventually here.
Yeah.
We have done a ride in the past. I used to lead one, and Jim Blodgett would be involved in that. Maybe a couple other committee members. This was pre-COVID. And that is something that I could look into doing that again this year. So I'd be willing to do that. But again, looking for others to step up as well. And that's where I was thinking inviting Mayor Kuhn and any elected officials to participate.
Okay, if any of you are able to volunteer or know somebody who would, if you could just let Mark know. Let's see, next item.
Is planning rides of the planning I just realized this reads kind of funny. Planning rides of the current and future transit system. So Tad is the one who requested this item, so you may wish to ask him to speak to this.
Okay, Tad.
Yeah. So as you probably are all aware, the Madison Metro bus system is changing from its current route system to a new route system starting June 11th. Also, as you may know, we started doing kind of committee walkabouts. We haven't done a ride about or a transit about yet. We did one back in February. So what I was thinking was it would be good to ride the transit system, do a group ride of the transit system twice, one on the current routes and one on the future routes after the change. And the reason for this is to kind of illustrate through direct experience how much things are changing. And I would say mostly for the better as a transit rider, but it's worth being aware of there are some places where things might not be as good after. So it'd be just good to do that. Jim and I believe, are the two most frequent transit riders.
Correct. Yep.
So I know some of you haven't ridden in a while, so it'd just be good to get back on that horse, so to speak. And it would also just be a great time to talk about the future of transit in Middleton. So that's the idea.
And if I can, Tad, you
Yeah.
don't know this, but I there was a the MPO staff person who handles Round Trip, which is a local rideshare matching service, was at an event recently and was handing out bus pass, a temporary bus, or not temporary, but a bus, two ride bus passes, basically.
Yeah.
Round trip bus passes, in other words.
Right.
And so with her permission, I grabbed several of those in anticipation of this agenda item. So I have
Awesome.
bus passes to, I don't have one for every committee member, but I figured, I mean, I can get more if necessary, but I want to see how many of you were interested in participating. And we should schedule a time because the current service is ending in a month.
Right.
So I thought that would be the outcome of this meeting. So is there people who's interested in, I guess we'd like to identify the date, who's interested, and then scheduling a time for this, presumably in the evening, similar committee meeting time would be what I would recommend.
So Tad, are you proposing then to go on the most complete route then? Rather than rush hour ones or?
Yeah, I think that would be, I think on the current system, if we're going on a weekday, yes, the 70 would be preferable, exactly as you say, because it's not peak service. It's the all day service to get an idea of that. If we were going on the weekend, I'd maybe we do, but like obviously the 78 is the only choice there. But so yes, on a weekday we'd be on the 70.
And that I'll pull up the current bus schedule, but Route 70 kicks in after 72 so it's the off-peak service, so it's available in the evenings.
Yes, I believe currently it runs all day because of the discontinuation of the 71.
That I believe is true, but it's the 72 that is only during peak hour, but I'll find it here. So here's the Route 70. And
Yeah.
schedule wise, as Tad noted, there is, this is coming out from Madison in the morning. So we're looking in the evenings here. So Middleton is, so here's South Ridgeway okay, this one, the fourth column is the first stop in Middleton. So 556, 656, 756, for example. And that might not be a bad place to gather. So there's parking near there at Marshall Park by the boat launch. So that would be one idea, or maybe catch it at, well, anyway, so we can discuss the logistics. In fact, we don't need to discuss all that right now.
Right, we could
want to see who
shoot for a time
participating, and then I can coordinate that with you. And then if there's a quorum of the committee, then we'll publicly notice the meeting regardless if there's a quorum or not. So who is interested in participating?
Would this require, you said 556, 656, is that the same bus? Or is it, are we dealing, I think the time commitment for people here?
Yeah, so what's nice about the 70 and how it's currently structured
is it just does a big loop.
Taking it westbound, it just repeats the loop, so you can, without even changing buses. So you can get on at, for example, 556, and you'll be back at Marshall Park at 628 or 623, excuse me. So it's about just less than half-hour commitment.
Okay.
The question is if you wanted to go farther and take it into, I mean, I think once you ride through, I think, Tad, your point is you want to have people experience the ride through Middleton.
Right.
Leaving Middleton is to get into Madison is not the important part. So let me see what the other, that's the let me see what the eastbound schedule does, because that's,
Yeah,
this schedule, one of the problems, and we'll talk about this further at the time, but one of the problems with Route 70 is the schedule is very difficult to understand. I always struggle with it too. And
yeah,
so that problem is going to be going away with the new service. So Terracin, let's see, that's in the morning. So here's the, let's see, parameter down. Yeah, so this is, it's confusing to look at this schedule. I wouldn't advise looking at this one as much. Yeah, this one's not worth looking. It's the west one that we, well, here's John.
well, so to speak to your confusion, so if you scroll up to the actual map really quick, the previous one ends at 0.1. So
Right.
that last time on that last column was when that bus arrives at 0.1 and then turns into the eastbound 70 and then
Right.
and then goes on the other, and does loops and loops and loops.
Oh, so maybe I wasn't even looking at the right. So when you board
Right.
at, let's see, this is the, okay. So boarding at Allen at Marshall Park, let's pick 556,
Mhm.
end up at,
You end up at JQ Hammonds and Greenway.
okay, oh, I'm sorry, that's not even back at Marshall Park. Okay, so you end up there
Right.
at 623, and then the eastbound leaves after 623. Specifically, it's 8 minutes later at 6:31, and then you get back to, I'm sorry, you're right, I read this wrong.
Yep.
So you get back to Marshall Park. So it's basically an hour and 2 minutes later.
Yep.
So, okay, it's an hour and 2 minute ride. My apologies for, I didn't read it right.
Yep. So it's about the length of this meeting.
So the times are, I guess, 5:56 or 6:56 would be my two, those would be the two best ways to handle this. The two options, I guess. So with that said, who is interested in doing a ride along to get familiar with the current bus system?
How many people are interested?
Ella? Okay, and you can email me too if you would rather do it that way. Anybody else? Jim, are you interested? Would you need transportation?
Most likely, yes,
And I can give you transportation there if you'd like, if that would be helpful.
that would be.
That's part of the problem is and I think, so anybody who needs a ride, I will make arrangements to make sure you get to the starting point. Okay, so Jim, Ella, Tad, if anybody else is interested. So how about when was convenient? Oh, good day of the week. I guess Wednesday is this meeting. Is that? I mean,
Thursday.
or I mean, this is Thursday, sorry. Given
Yeah.
that we're meeting on Thursdays, maybe a Thursday is a good way to go.
Yeah, Thursdays usually work for me.
I can do a Thursday.
Thursday, yeah.
So Thursday, today's the 11th, so the 18th. I might just check my calendar. I have a zoning board of appeals coming up and my colleague has been handling that, but let me just see what day that is. Oh, that should. Yeah, that works for me. The 18th, next Thursday would work for me, but the following Thursday would be, I mean, I missed the start of the ZBA meeting, so I guess I would prefer next Thursday. Or the other option would be Thursday, June 1st. Or Thursday, June 8th for that matter. So what's the preference of those of you interested?
I would rather go in June so that when we do the subsequent ride, it's
It's fresh.
fresh, right?
Okay, that's good thinking. So either June 1st or June 8th. looking ahead to those evenings. That should be fine with my schedule. So maybe June 8th is right before, and then we could go with June 5th. Well, we meet the second Thursday of the month. So June 8th is the second Thursday. Well, that's another idea, is to have it on a committee meeting night, and yeah, that's another way to handle it. That forces everyone to go, haha.
Can we broadcast Zoom from a bus?
Mark, the only issue with that is by that time, there may be new committee members and there'll be an older person appointed.
And thank you for pointing that out. I mean, there's going to be some changes with committees. This
Right.
is last meeting of this session, if you will. Committees organize themselves with new members in June. So that's a good point. But the service changes on June 11th. So we have either June 1st or June, and the new committees wouldn't organize themselves until the terms begin in June, is my understanding. So June 1st would work, because I think the council is planning to consider committee appointments this coming Tuesday. So new committee members will be appointed, whether it's June 1st or 8th. But I think we try to have a standing meeting of the second Thursday of the month. So I guess I would recommend either having our standing meeting at 5 p.m. and then have it be a short meeting, and then we meet at the bus. I mean, that would be one way to handle that. Or we have a separate meeting altogether for June 1st.
I would propose have our regular meeting on June 8th and do this bus on June 1st.
I concur.
Okay, I will make that happen. I think that's all we needed here. And then in the subsequent meeting, the subsequent bus ride could be on June 15th. And if you'd like, unless you wanted, well, you wanted to have them fairly close together, right?
Yeah, so I mean, just anytime. I didn't want to do a bus ride next week and then not one until July.
Understood.
But I mean, we could have 2 to 3 weeks in between.
June 5th, I'm gone that week. The week of June 12th, I will be gone.
Okay.
It doesn't mean you can't. I just now actually have connected the dots on that. I had not realized this is I've planned this for several months, actually. So yes, I am gone the week of June 12th. If you wish to continue to and just meet and do the ride, that's fine. Otherwise, I would be back June 22nd. I mean,
And that's a Thursday. Why don't we plan on June 22nd?
Okay.
And then in the interim, if anybody decides that they are interested in going, and then hopefully then with these new appointees, would they be able to be invited?
Oh, absolutely. I would extend that same
Okay,
option. I know we have a couple people who are leaving. I mean, I don't know exactly what is going to happen because that's the mayor's prerogative. But Nate, it's my understanding that you've indicated you're not continuing.
Right, yeah, I think this is my second or third term on this committee, so I decided that I'll probably pursue something else at this point.
Okay. Yeah, and anybody else whose term is up, if you've, I don't know if you've had communication about, I stay out of that sort of thing. So I don't know what terms are coming up, people coming and going. Ella, I know that you and I communicated today that you are here as the high school representative and you're a senior, it sounds like. So you will probably be, well, I would anticipate that there'll be a need for a new high school student. So this might be your last meeting too. Okay, moving on to if that's okay with you, Jim, moving on to project updates.
Yep,
I simply have the North Mendota Trail to report on, and this is just a discussion item anyway. It's just a quick update for you, just so you know. We have a contractor that resumed work in late March. Dan Ramsey had indicated that at the last meeting. They have made some very noticeable progress on the northeast side. The retaining walls are largely established. If you haven't been up that way lately, we've had some unforeseen issues arise here and there with, as happens with construction projects, but by and large, those are being addressed expeditiously, and we're still on track from everything we can tell to do paving in the next couple of weeks. This month certainly, and then with an eye towards being done in early to mid-June. So we will still have, and I'll be coming to you with some additional things that we're going to be doing with signage, and I'd like to have a proposal for pavement marking. I got to work on those things too. But by and large, we should have the path open, available for use by hopefully mid-June is the goal. And that there's no reason to think we can't reach that at this point. So that's all I had for project, unless there's any other questions you have. I didn't list anything in particular on here, but I can always send out, if you have a question, I can send out an update too. The creek corridor is progressing, and I think they were trying to get that done by July, if I remember right, the flooding repair. So that's all I had for project updates.
okay, if there isn't anything else, does somebody want to propose to adjourn?
Yep, so we scheduled our future meetings, and I just want to say thank you to those of you who are going to be leaving the committee. Thank you for your service on the committee, and I wish you well.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay. Nate, why don't you propose the adjournment?
I propose to adjourn our meeting.
Second,
I second that proposal.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
All
thank
those,
you all.
nay, thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, everyone.
Yep,
Thanks.
good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too, bye.